The most documented meal in human history was a Passover Seder.
It was eaten by 13 people in an upper room in Jerusalem. Within just a few hours, the world was completely changed.
But here's the thing, almost nobody asked, what was actually on the table?
You see, this was not some spontaneous gathering. It followed a very specific, prescribed ritual order, the Passover Seder. This was a meal that had been eaten by Jewish families for over 1,000 years, following a command to keep it as a feast, an ordinance forever.
So Jesus did not interrupt the Passover. No, he fulfilled it from the inside.
And how do we know all this? Well, we have 4 accounts: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Each one adds details the others leave out. And when you put them all together, you get a nearly complete picture of what was eaten, what was said, and what was done.
So, let's start the investigation. Let's analyze the menu of the Seder.
The centerpiece of the entire meal was, of course, the Passover lamb. Luke's account even tells us that Jesus sent Peter and John ahead specifically to prepare the Passover. Now, there were very specific rules for this lamb. It had to be a male of the first year, with no blemishes. It was to be kept until the 14th day of the month, then roasted whole over a fire, and eaten with unleavened bread and bitter herbs.
I mean, you have to understand this. The lamb was on the table. It was the meal. It was the entire reason for the gathering.
And then, within just a few hours, Jesus, the man who ate that lamb, would himself become what the lamb represented. The theological weight of that is just staggering. But this isn't only about symbolism. Let's shift gears for a minute and look at this from a scientific and nutritional perspective. We need to see how this meal literally fueled the body for the ordeal that was coming. Because what happened next was an extraordinary physical demand. After the meal, Jesus endured Gethsemane, a Roman trial, a flogging, and crucifixion.
To get a sense of the stress, think about Gethsemane. The account says his sweat was like drops of blood. That's not just poetry. It's a known, though very rare, medical condition called hematidrosis, where extreme stress causes capillaries to rupture into the sweat glands.
So, what was in that lamb he ate? Well, it was the perfect fuel. It had complete protein to sustain energy and muscle function. It had heme iron, which is absolutely crucial for oxygen transport in the blood, especially after blood loss. It had zinc to support the immune response under that kind of massive stress. And it had vitamin B12, which is essential for nerve function and energy. The body had exactly what it needed.
Okay, so beyond the lamb, what else was on the table? Let's talk about the unleavened bread and the bitter herbs. The bread itself tells a story. It's called the bread of affliction because, as the text says, they came out of Egypt in a hurry. There was no time for the bread to rise. It's a symbol of haste and hardship.
And it's this very bread that all 3 synoptic gospels record him taking. He took the bread, he blessed it, he broke it, and then he gave it a completely new meaning.
And the other elements were just as powerful. The bitter herbs were there to symbolize the bitterness of slavery in Egypt, and the wine, which was drunk in 4 separate cups throughout the meal, represented 4 distinct promises of redemption.
So when you put it all together, what you have is a meal that really changed everything. It's this incredible synthesis of body and soul.
Think about it. Every single element on that table was an ancient symbol, absolutely saturated with 1,000 years of meaning.
But on that night, each one of those elements also became fuel. It was food for the body, and it was a new meaning for the soul.
It was a meal that nourished a man for his death, and in doing so it forever changed how we see food, faith, and sacrifice.
Which leaves you with one last question to think about. What if the most important meal in history wasn't just about the soul, but was just as much about the body?